What's up, Chris? It's Tuesday.
Tuesday, the last Tuesday of 2024.
The
Whew,
last
man, it
day of
went really fast.
2024. Yes.
The last whole day. That's right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Practice Playbook, the show where we help firm owners and wannabe firm owners navigate the road for their modern firms. I'm Chris. He's Jay. Nope, he's Jay. That way. God. And we're here to talk to you all about it. Last week we talked about nothing because it was Christmas Eve. So we were up celebrating and spending time with our families and all of that good stuff. Before that, though, I highlighted a handful of different trends to watch out for and be on the lookout for, and as we head into 2025. And this week we're going to talk probably in a relatively shorter episode but there's been lots of big news, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that big news. We'll touch on cybersecurity. We'll touch on the accounting business model more broadly, and then we'll talk a little bit about why government can drive us crazy sometimes. Um, so, uh, so Jay, let's get to the news.
Let's jump in.
Let's do it. So the first news item is the on again off again struggles with the BOI and employee reporting and whatever it's called, the Corporate Transparency Act.
So,
Uh,
do we have to do it? Do we not have to do it? I've kind of lost track at this point.
Yeah, I think it feels like we've gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth since we talked last. I think when we talked last, there was an injunction, and post that injunction, there was a subsequent re-junction or whatever that was. I don't know what you would even call it. Like somebody injuncted the injunction, and then
They put a stay
stay.
on the order. Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And then after that, they've re-injuncted, so they've injuncted again, or lifted the stay, or whatever the right answer is there. And so, needless to say, it's confusing for us. So, can you imagine how confusing it is for like regular business owner X, who is like, I don't even want to do this thing anyway. Like, what are we talking about? You sent me an email like on Tuesday that said do this thing, and now it's Wednesday, and you're sending me another. Like, what's happening right now?
Right.
Um,
So it was Monday, the 23rd, when
mhm.
they said, yeah, don't do this. We're going to put a stop to it. And then it
Yep.
was Thursday, I think Thursday the 27th. No, Friday the 27th, when they reversed
Okay.
it. Now, Thursday, I had gone in. I had 2 BOIs down. I had 2 to go. So I filed my other 2.
Right.
Literally took me 10 minutes. They actually made it simpler to file it. You no longer
okay.
have to have an account. You could
You
just
don't
go
even.
to the page and start filing it. So it was even easier. So it's really not a big deal. So
Right.
yeah. But to
Man.
me, the Fifth Circuit is making a joke out of this because it's like, where's the trust here anymore? I mean, one day you say, yeah, let's not do it. A couple of days later with a holiday in between, yeah, we're going to still do it. It's like you're giving mixed messages. We don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. And it's like, it's time to fix this.
Right. Yeah. There's really no question that that's true, right? Like, let's just have a solution, an answer. Let's
Yeah.
tell people the story here,
Yeah.
right? And so obviously, like, I think that's a big takeaway of what's happening here, right? Is that the more that the U.S. courts like change the rules on stuff, like the less trust there is in the environment more broadly, and
For sure.
because what can you really believe? It doesn't. It seems like it just changes all the time,
Yeah.
and I think that like ultimately that's a horrible thing, not just a bad thing. That's a really really bad thing, and so um, I don't
Yeah.
know that that's ever going to change, but man, it'd be nice if it did. Um, so
You,
I
you
guess
know, it was truly funny for me because, I was spending some time on the TikTok before it gets,
yeah, banned
banned,
tomorrow.
which again, that's another on again, off again thing, but that's a conversation for another week. But
Yeah,
it was Thursday morning, Friday morning, people finally getting around after the holiday, after Christmas, to
right.
create their content. Hey, y'all better file your reports. And next thing you know, I'm seeing those for the first time, and it's like, y'all got to redo that. It's like, I mean, it happened so fast, you couldn't even get a content generation cycle in
Right.
before they reversed course.
Right. That is, and especially because it was right around the holiday too, right?
For
Like
sure.
that just made it that much worse.
Yep.
Um, in the end, I guess the next question that naturally comes here is like, okay, we've injuncted a few times, we've uninjuncted a few times, or stayed the injunction a few times, or whatever it is, right? Like, surely we're gonna go through this maybe one more time. I don't know what's gonna happen next, right? I I assume that if that now that it's gone to the Fifth Circuit, the next layer is to the Supreme Court, is the way that I think I understand that
Yeah.
to go.
That would be
Um,
it.
and so I guess we'll see if they have any interest in having a conversation around this case, and whether they're uh, interested in continuing to make changes to legislation by doing their job. I guess I'm not really sure. So what do you do? Um, I think Jay and I are on the same page here of like you're reporting on information that people already know about you, so you should probably just do it, um, and not even worry about the like in game there. Um, and especially now that it's made easier that you don't need an ID me or whatever account it is, right? You can just
Login.gov,
go.
I believe is what it
Yeah,
was. But
sure.
you know, they still say you should voluntarily
Yeah,
file it. I
yeah,
kind of agree with it because, like you said, most of the information about these businesses are out. You know,
yeah,
even if you are registered in Wyoming or Nevada or Delaware, the whole point is to keep that corporate structure and the
right.
ownership secret. I mean, if you got a bank account, you're all on there somewhere. So it's on there. It's like it's not a big deal. Just file it. They're
Right.
not doing it to trace you. They want to make sure that you are not a terrorist. So
Yeah, and so I think that was the last thing that I wanted to talk about around this is like why does this reporting even matter? Like, why did they want to do this in the first place? And I think that you've hit on it, right? Is because the underlying banking systems have gotten so complicated, the it becomes really difficult to like track who owns what and how money's changing hands and all of that kinds of stuff. Um, and so the I think the intention originally was like who owns this business. Like that is what the reporting is for, so that they can highlight who like where that money's coming from and
yeah,
where it's going. Um, which uh, which which I guess is a debate that that you can have. Like, is that a thing that you want people to be able to know about you or whatnot? But um, I don't know. Hmm. I don't know that this is the right forum to even talk about it. But that's a thing to at least consider of like what is the end game? What was the intention? The intention is to keep people safe, I think.
yeah.
um, and it just doesn't. I think you lose sight of that when you start worrying about like, do I need to file this thing? What's the deadline? Who cares? Like all this kind of stuff. So, um, who knows? What's going to be the end game of this one? I guess we'll see. Like it's we've been talking about that because there was some question long ago about what was going to happen, and now it's just like taken a really weird path to get to the exact same question that we already had. And so I think it's a thing to continue to monitor. But Jay, like you said, and like I'd agree with, is like this is not a
Yep.
complicated task. You should probably just knock it out.
So
Um,
one thing to keep in mind when they did issue the original decision to enforce the law, they added 12 days to file the report.
right.
So the deadline became January 13th.
It
So
is not
should
today.
this change and become required again, figure about 12 days after that happens, you're going to have to get it filed. So again, what's the pain here? Just file it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I actually I think it's the entire law that has been like contested really.
Right.
not just this reporting. And so I'd be interested in what the like other ramifications or implications of the law itself, the Transparency Act law itself,
Right.
um, that are causing other types of trouble or whatever constitutional issue or whatnot. So
Right.
who knows? Again, I think we'll see that play out in the courts as it already has been, um, and I think once the team up there at the Supreme Court makes a stance one way or the other, they're obviously then you'll know what's happening, and that's the last one that we've got to wait for, I think. So expect that probably sometime in 2025. That'd be
Yeah.
my
Well,
guess
hopefully we're
anyway.
not talking about it a year from now. Let's hopefully this has
Hopefully
been
not.
put to bed. Either we're doing it, we're not doing it. They revise the law, something.
Something. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
This is almost as sustainable as talking about the 2024 tax changes that started back in January.
yeah, right.
Yeah. At least
Yeah,
we know the 24 tax changes are done today. We're not going to see that again.
that's right.
So,
That is
but that
right.
whole
Absolutely.
conversation does start all over again. In less than a month. So
Right. Exciting times, Jay. It's exciting
for
times here
sure,
in the United States.
for sure.
And certainly for tax professionals. Oh man. Um, Speaking of Jay, I don't know whether we didn't talk about this before the show, so I don't know whether you've seen this summary, and I have not read much about it, so maybe it's not a topic for today. But um, the deregulated finance. So if most people just call that DeFi,
Yeah.
this is like your cryptocurrency space.
Yep.
The IRS issued some final regulations related to DeFi, and oh man, are the Bitcoin bros upset about it. Um, Jay, have you read anything about this?
I barely read anything about it, but I
Well,
can tell you that they are upset because they want to treat it like a regular trade.
yeah,
And, the thing to me is there's been so much obscurity over this that we finally have something to follow.
yeah, yeah,
And I think
and
that's
so
the
I do
most
think that
important thing.
right, and that's exactly what I was just going to say. Is like actually having a set of rules in place allows you to do planning around the rules rather than guesswork around the rules.
Right.
Um, and so that I do think is actually a very positive thing, rather than there not being stuff in place. And you said, so what do you know what the like rough treatment is then?
I did not get that deep into
Yeah, that's
it.
fine. So maybe it'll be a topic for another time. But this is
I was
obviously big
more
news.
mesmerized by the Beyond Trust website, which we'll get into shortly.
Okay, sure, sure. Yeah. Anyway, so again, there are new regulations around deregulated finance. So if you have clients who are speculating in the crypto space or in assets of that nature, like take a good look, because there are some rules around that now, and you'll want to make sure that you're up to speed on how to advise people properly. Um, I think that this thing, like you said, Jay, is it does matter because now there is a set of rules. We've been waiting.
Yep.
I mean, I bought some Bitcoin, I think in maybe 2017, back when it hit the previous all-time highs, or some other like coins. I think I bought Litecoin, maybe
Doge,
a
maybe?
pinch or two of. I never bought Doge. I just Litecoin. I had a little bit of Ethereum for a while. Like I bought those things, but that was before there were any rules at all. This was before there
Right.
was even a checkbox on the return of did you exchange cryptocurrency this year,
Right.
and so there was like literally the wild west. No one was doing anything, and so and so having some rules in place, so that you can plan properly is nice, right? Um, I think it's important to be able to understand exactly what the implications of transactions that you're involving yourself in are,
For sure.
and so now you have some knowledge of that instead of again like speculating or guessworking or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we dig into that a little bit further, especially if there are some particular parts and pieces that maybe are not what we were expecting or more controversial. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we learn more about that. Um, And as though the IRS, FinCEN, and the Treasury Department weren't like having enough challenges between BOI and issuing new regulations. There was some big news, Jay. I believe I, was it the Department of Treasury itself that was hacked? Who got
The
hacked?
US Treasury was hacked, yes.
Yeah, that that seems pretty bad.
Yeah.
What do you think about this, Jay?
I think they should have turned off that coffee pot and not allowed him. Yeah, no, honestly, this is a big deal. They got into
Yeah.
the Treasury. There were no um, security or secure documents that were taken. Everything was non-top secret or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's all good there. But the thing about it is, you know, the world came to an end. What was it? A couple months ago, due to a issue from a third-party vendor of Microsoft's,
Right.
and now a third-party vendor of the government that's providing security services and support had assisted in this. And I'm just looking at their website. It's a very pretty website, and I'm waiting for one day for there to be a closed symbol on there because they're going to be shut down. But they are Beyond Trust is named a leader in like 4 different things. They're named a leader in these 4 things, but number one, they're not a leader in is enforcing security of their employees, because it was one of their employees' accounts that was hacked that gave access to the keys to get into the Treasury systems.
Wow.
So honestly, I would not be giving my janitorial staff admin privileges to everything. I mean, and ultimately that's what happened. Somebody had admin privileges. That password got broken or stolen or leaked or whatever.
Right.
Did they have 2-factor authentication? Were they using any other security on there? Don't know. But
Yeah.
as a result, they were able to log into multiple workstations in the Treasury Department and get non-classified information. That's the word I was looking for, non-classified.
There we go.
So, yeah. So, this is a big deal because, there's a lot of information at the Treasury. If they got into the Treasury, did they get into the IRS systems? IRS systems have names, names, addresses, social security numbers, dates of birth, lots of information. So, that could be the worst hack of all time. So, that's...
And obviously, I don't think anything has happened now outside of that. We know that this has happened. That's not. I haven't heard anything about that. There's like every American's data is compromised or something like this. Like I'm
Right.
sure that that's probably like to some degree is true. But this just serves as a reminder, and we've talked about this several times on this show before. This serves as a reminder that cybersecurity is important at all kinds of different levels.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're thoughtful about it, that you have policies in place to address those types of things, so that those admin keys are in the right hands, that they aren't being leaked or exposed or whatever the right word is there, right? Like that is a really critical thing, and it matters because that if it can happen to the U.S. Treasury, you better believe it can happen to you.
It happened to the company that's protecting the personal identifiable information for some of the world's largest companies. So that's the key there. And, I think for us as financial professionals and, those, you don't do tax prep, but
No.
I do. And
A lot of people do.
There are many that do. And some use their computers at home. So this is just a cautionary tale here. But,
Right.
it was a couple years ago, I was at a IRS forum, and it was all about security. And they were talking about a firm employee who took their laptop home. They were using a remote desktop software to access whether it was a client or an office computer. But their kids were using their laptop and clicked through something that put a Trojan on their computer, which
Oh no.
gave the intruders access through the remote desktop. So, you got to be careful. So, my words of wisdom: don't let your kids use your computer. Don't let your spouse use your computer. Make sure you're using a VPN. Even if you're at home now at this point, you got to do something along those lines.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't want to be transmitting this information through the internet where it's not encrypted anymore. They're even talking about ditching your messaging on your phone and using encrypted messaging just within your family. And then I'm thinking about it. How many times have I given information to my daughter in a text message? And it's like, oh, no, New Year's resolution. We're switching to WhatsApp across the family. So, it's like we got to tighten up. And, I ran a firm from my home here. I've worked for a firm here.
Right.
I have 2 wireless networks in my house because I don't want things to cross.
All right.
So, we got to start taking it a little more seriously, especially as we become more and more distributed in the workforce and in the accounting industry.
Yeah, and I think that's again a critical takeaway here is like cybersecurity is not going to get any less important. If anything, it will just continue and continue and continue to be more and more important. Because especially as a tax professional, especially if that's the area of your skills, like you have a lot of information about your clients.
For sure.
And you certainly don't want that information to be exposed, leaked, or otherwise vulnerable. So make sure you have good plans in place to protect that, and then remind your team of all those things Jay was just talking about. Talk about 2-factor authentication. Talk about I know it sounds silly, but talk about like not clicking the UPS email from 12345.com or whatever. Like think. Be diligent around it, be thoughtful around it, make sure you're planning appropriately, make sure that people understand that a VPN network is more powerful than not using one, that having your kids play around on your computer can cause a lot of problems because they didn't take the 30-minute IT training course or whatever. They didn't know not to click through that email because they're just not thinking about it. Right. So like be thoughtful around that for you and your team.
Daddy, look at that funny man on the computer screen.
That's right. That's exactly right. So again, this is one of the leading like cybersecurity protection companies in the world, right? That's what they claim.
For sure.
And so again, if it can happen to them, it can definitely happen to you. So be thoughtful and diligent around that. Absolutely.
And keep in mind, these bad actors know that accounting firms and tax prep firms have a lot of information, which makes us even bigger targets.
Yeah.
So make sure you're prepared. Make sure you have your WISP in place. That's your written information security plan that the IRS requires you to have.
That's great. I was going to ask about that. Thanks for bringing it up because I'd seen it a couple times and I was like, do I embarrass myself by being like, I'm not exactly sure what this is?
What are you talking about?
But written information security plan. So again, make sure you understand and have communicated to your team like what your security protocols are, so that everybody knows that, because it is important and it's also required. So both of those things are true together. Any other cybersecurity or vulnerability discussion, Jay? Anything else on your mind as it comes to this? Do you think it's going to get worse with AI? It's maybe another question too.
Well, before we get to that, you mentioned clicking through tracking numbers. So I did order something from the TikTok shop last week.
Nice.
And I did get a text with a tracking number. So, I just copied the tracking number and went in, put in USPS and tracked it manually. Right. I don't use those links because you are right. They will put payload in there and you will get hacked from those tracking emails.
Well, yeah,
or even those items that are trapped in customs. We get those often too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The fake ones, more than like a real one. Hopefully, a TikTok shop purchase that you actually made is not exposing you that way. But just in case, it's better safe than sorry for sure.
Well, it
Um,
is a Chinese company, and it was a Chinese bad actor that purportedly done this hacking
that
attack.
that is a really
So
interesting point. I wonder if that's what happened. Is they purchased something from TikTok shop right there on the computer? could could be,
maybe, yeah.
could be.
But
Um,
mind you
but again,
that the Chinese government has said very emphatically and repeatedly that they are against hacking and they are not behind this. So we
I'm
shall
sure.
see.
Well, I'm sure. Um, and again, so one other question around this, right, is like as AI implementation continues to and adoption continues to be more prevalent, um, we expect this to be a bigger problem. And I think the answer to that is like a very obvious yes, and that much more of a reason to continue to be diligent in what you're doing and how you're doing it. Make
Yeah,
sure you have a good plan in place.
that's the key. Just have
Yeah.
that in place and just go through the process
Right. Yep. Sounds right.
for sure.
Any other IRS and tax related news that we wanted to talk about on this final episode of
Uh,
2024?
Nothing
No.
that I'm aware of at this point. Although the
Yeah.
IRS is sending out, I think they said somewhere along a million checks for, I think it said $1,400 going back to people that did not claim their stimulus checks during COVID. So
Oh.
if you
All
haven't
right.
claimed it, be looking for that. Which I thought they did that way back when anyway, but apparently they didn't. So
Hey. Well, good luck. Get
unfortunately,
that
we
money.
claimed ours. I'm not getting anything. So
Yeah. Same. I remember receiving that. Um, so womp womp. Okay. In other accounting news, and it was all over my LinkedIn for the couple days out of after Christmas. It was the only thing that I saw everywhere, and this falls right in the acquisition and financing corner, maybe.
right. Well, it
But for
kind of
those of
does in the long run.
Yeah, but for those of you who you are living under a rock or something like that, one of the largest bookkeeping service providing companies, Binch.co, on Friday, I guess it was Saturday
Yeah,
morning,
it
something like
was
that. Friday, late
Friday
Friday.
afternoon.
Yeah, Friday afternoon, they informed all of their clients that they were shutting down services immediately. We'll get you some data in a couple days. Okay, bye. And uh, and that was kind of the communication, and that was really all I saw about it as well. The same screenshot, like I said, probably shared by 10 to 15 different people. Um, I I I think that that's obviously the timing of that leading right into the end of the year is tough, um, because there's like I understand if your company is running into issues, but the they have 11,000 plus clients. I think their website even says 35,000. Maybe that's what they've touched in their lifetime or something like that. But that's a lot of businesses, and most of the businesses that they serve are smaller businesses in the startup and tech space, right? Or
Yeah,
just startup
exactly.
space, right? So these are relatively small businesses that need some kind of support, be that just some daily transaction coding or weekly or monthly transaction coding, that kind of thing. So bookkeeping support, and they also offered a bookkeeping plus tax returns product for about $600, which is a really inexpensive price. Like that's a good price point. Their Binch's claim to fame, I guess, if you want to call it that way, they had raised about 100 million and maybe a little bit more in overall capital. This is venture capital mostly, from a couple different sources, with the intention of being the leader, the first people, like that kind of thing, that were truly getting AI models and AI tools to automate accounting. Although, as we've been aware here, right, and we've talked about on several different episodes of the show, like we're just not quite all the way there yet, which means that lots of that work was still having to be done by individuals, and other team members. So, or it would end up really sloppy. I think would be your other option. You could end up with like who knows what kind of codes happening. But obviously that model ends up with some crunch and and at low price points and rising costs. You and then pressure from uh, venture investors. You end up in a position where you're not getting maybe the returns you were expecting. And I think that as far as I've seen, right, I don't think there's any insider information out there about exactly what happened here, like what the reasons were. There's been lots and lots and lots of speculation, and I've personally tried not to speculate on it too much. Like I don't know, like it could be like a million different things, I'm sure, um, but but it definitely seems like the business model was not working the way that it was intended. Um, that's
Well,
what I'd say.
what I've read is
Mhm.
the demise of Bench started with the ouster of its founder.
Right.
And when they go back and review, like the founder went on LinkedIn or maybe it was on X and posted all this information,
The
and
same thing. Yeah, he
basically,
posted it in both places.
the employees that were there said, "Yeah, this is all true." So what he said is very accurate.
Yep.
And the downfall of the company was them ousting him to go in a different direction, and apparently was not the right direction. Now,
Yep.
since his ouster, and I don't remember his name at the moment, he started another startup.
Yep.
That
Keel.
startup
Right.
was purchased, and I can't remember who purchased it at the moment.
Was
Mercury
it not Mercury? Yeah,
purchased.
Mercury. Yeah.
Mercury, so he's at Mercury now, and he's working out his exit there, and very successfully done.
Right.
So sounds like he's a pretty smart young man. Yeah, old man. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it sounds like he had a really good business plan, knew what he was going to do, and people came in, and that happens to founders sometimes.
Yep.
And most of the time it works out. In this case, it didn't quite work out.
Yeah, and I think
And
what he had communicated, right, is that like there was a strategic difference where he felt like if they went down the path that
yeah,
they wanted to go down, that was not going to be successful. They were going to run into challenges, and he wanted to
yeah,
go on a slower, I think, more thoughtful, methodical path.
right,
Um, which whether that would have been more successful or not, I guess, is on its own TBD.
right,
But this one clearly wasn't, at least for now, um, and and definitely has put both the clients of Bench and also the like team members that were there like
yeah.
in a bunch of uncertainty. And why is it uncertain, Jay? Well, there was a wrinkle, a fun wrinkle that came down. I think it was yesterday, and that's that employer.com, who I had never heard of, um, acquired Bench, and so it sounds like they've offered a lot of the people there at Bench maybe a 30 like short 30-day contract type things so that they could stick
Mm-hmm.
around and stay on, and then they're working with clients to continue on the platform itself.
Right.
Um, but and so they're not just gone, which is super weird. That on its own is a very interesting thing, and we could probably talk for an hour about like what happened here. And that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, Jay. Is like, sure, we understand, like, okay, they ousted the founder, there was a different direction, like what really happened? Like, will we ever know like what really happened here?
I
Um,
would reckon we will never know.
right. Yeah, that's kind of what I think too.
And what we do know though is the business the business model that was in play was not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that the deal with employer.com is non-disclosed, so we won't
Yeah, I'm
know
sure.
the issues there. And from what I understand, employer.com is a privately held company and
Yep.
a very young company.
That's right. I
So
think
it
not even 2 years old. I don't think, maybe not even one.
yeah,
Um, So they may just be striking at the right time,
Yeah.
or like I mentioned to you before, too. I'm sure Employer.com has its own agenda and intention, and so
Right.
maybe having 11,000 small bookkeeping startup clients fits their model, potentially, or as a like cross-selling or cross-referencing point.
Or
I don't
maybe
know.
they don't care about the customers. They just want the technology.
That's possible too. Absolutely.
So,
And so I
without
think,
knowing the structure of the deal, there's a lot of
no,
things at play that we just don't know.
right.
So,
And so, there's no question that that over the probably over the next like 12 to 18 months, this will continue to be a point of conversation across the accounting community because people are going to want to know what happened. People are going to want to understand like what went wrong or what went right, and
yep.
I don't know that we'll ever know. Um, and so it will be interesting to continue to participate in the discourse around that, to see like what people's thoughts are. And so I know even though it's flooded my LinkedIn feed already, I'm going to keep reading people's thoughts on it. I'm just going to keep looking at it because I do think it's interesting to hear from different people to get different perspectives. And I think it will be interesting to hear from bench employees or bench clients specifically,
For
because
sure.
I do think those their perspectives are going to be the ones that I think really matter here.
Yep.
Um, so I'll be looking forward to continuing to see that. I know one of the communities that we're a part of, Jay, has a couple guys that are former bench guys, and they said like very similar to the founder guy. They were like, hey, you know what, we kind of saw that coming,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of the reason why they started their own firm, that and have been very intentional, kind of like the founder talked about how he wanted to be, right? They've been very
Right.
intentional with the way that they've been working and growing. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
and so Jay, if we think about this, right, um, what 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 do you think the longer term implications are to the profession or um, to to people who we're talking to today, right? To consumers of the practice playbook.
Well, I am thinking that part of the issues we're going to see is a lack of trust in lower cost providers because, you know,
Mm,
one day you're here and next day you're not. Oh, wait, now you're back again. What's going on there? So
right,
I think that's going to be a factor at play. And, you know, what's going to happen with these AI automated solutions? And
right,
yeah, I think that's the big issue. So, firms like ours, where, we are real humans delivering real solutions and intelligence,
right.
I think overall the value that you will receive will outweigh the lower priced options moving forward.
Right. And so that segues pretty well into into my final question on this, or at least my final question for now. And that's given that this has happened, or like what if you're an accounting firm, like what should you do, or what can you do, or the one of the podcasts that I listen to that is a fantasy football podcast, and they 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 always make a joke around people's injuries, right? Like in the NFL, right? People get hurt all the time, and in fantasy football, like that happens regularly. And okay, that guy got hurt, but how can I make money off this, right? And it's I don't know, I can't remember exactly. It may be the Tim Robinson skit show that
Right.
that's the like scam thing from.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay, how can we make money off this?
Well,
Or can we?
well, I mean, yeah. Let's just say there's 11,000 clients there.
Yeah,
Maybe half of them might think they want to switch.
right,
So, how many of those clients do you anticipate would be leery or be mindful of those lower cost alternatives?
Right.
and might want to shop for a better alternative. So,
Yeah.
maybe 10%. So, what is it going to end up being? About 50 clients?
Yeah. Something like that.
But you know what?
Yeah.
If it is 50, come on this way. We got you covered.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And I think that speaks to a couple different things that accounting firms want to do right now. Um, the first one is that you want to shore up and ensure that your customer experience is solid. Like you don't want to be the people who do something like this to your clients, right? You want to be the ones that are supporting people, that are there for people, that maybe give people a very broad heads up of, hey,
For sure.
we're not interested in this relationship anymore, or we're about to retire, whatever the situation might be. Um, you want to make sure that you're on the forefront and in advance for communicating this, not at the end, and certainly not like 3 or 4 days before year end. Probably
And
not the
that's the
best
worst
timing.
part of it. It's like
Yeah.
it sounded like they didn't have the funds to keep their system up and running, so they just locked it out. And it's like, okay, maybe we'll have something for you in a couple days, but in the interim, reach out to this other solution provider. Yeah, there you go. Lost you there for a while.
Oh, no.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's like you again, by not notifying the clients in advance, you're losing credibility with those clients. So it's
Right.
like, yeah,
Oh man.
looks like you locked up again there.
I know. That's fun, huh?
Yeah.
Technology here. We're swap the camera up. Do a different one.
There you
Um.
go.
Yep. So that's the work on that, right? So yeah, I do
Yeah,
think.
I've had a few issues over here too. So our recording stopped about 2 minutes ago. So
Oh,
I
is that
don't know what
really?
happened there. So it's all good. We're still
That's
live.
fine.
So yeah.
Yeah. And so then the other thing too, right, is like if you're starting to target these clients, right, like an important thing that you want to make sure that you've done as a firm is understand who you're targeting and why, right? So
Right.
make sure you have a full understanding of the niche that you want to serve, the people that you want to serve, and the types of clients that you want to take on. Because just taking on a client to take on a client is it can have its own kinds of value, right? Like there's value in doing that, but at the same time, like there's opportunity costs, and so I do
Right.
think it's important to be really thoughtful about the way that you're acquiring clients and understanding not just the financial ramifications, but also like the longer term. Why am I doing this? Why is this client a fit for me? And is that even a client that I want? Like,
Right.
or is there, or are these, or kind of like you were talking about, Jay? These people are going to be extremely price sensitive, and that means that that in a year from now, I'm just going to not have a client anymore. And is that turnover really worth it?
Right. Is that truly
um,
what you want to go through? And keep
right.
in mind, some of these clients are going to have PTSD here from this
No question.
situation. So you gotta be very careful how you're going to approach things. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. What other any other final thoughts or final things to think about as it comes to what's happening over there at Bench?
Yeah, my first thing was, well, 100 million wasn't enough. It obviously needed to double that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Oops.
there's been a number of accounting solutions over
Mm-hmm.
time. There was one based out of Austin. It was 4, maybe 5 years ago, shut down. And
Okay.
they were one of those high-tech automated firms, and they actually had a lot of accounting talent, and
Mm.
those people were scapped up. And the thing about the accounting industry right now, we are going through a shortage of talent, and that was the one thing I noticed with this whole thing is firms started reaching out, not just to clients, but hey, if you're working there, reach out to us, So,
Yep.
the accounting industry is really it's at a precipice right now. It's where do we go from here?
Right.
So the next couple weeks is gonna be interesting with this, and we'll keep you posted here.
Yep.
We're all over it, so we'll
Obviously.
keep you posted.
Yep, absolutely. Jay, just as a final follow up here, I did a LinkedIn poll of around this because again, I'm still not sure like what thoughts to have, right?
Yeah,
Because I don't know what happened, and so
yeah,
I don't want to be the person who's bashing on a business model because I don't know. I mean,
right,
it could be like completely unrelated, which
for sure.
it might be, but it's probably not. But at the same time, like you never know. Um, and so before I like go to any judgment, I like to get more facts, but I also love to get people's thoughts around this. And the last time that I checked my poll results, I, I had a couple different options, right? I am a bench customer, and now I need help. I'm a bench employee, and now I need help. I am a fan of bench, or basically like I've never heard of bench.
Right.
And at least in my network, Jay, the people who were willing to respond to my poll, almost all of them had never heard of bench before. Now that may just be that they appreciated my joke of bench, like for sitting on, um, and they're just trolling me. But at the same time, it's possible that this is really truly an event that impacts the accounting industry much more narrowly
Yeah.
than maybe it feels like when you're scrolling through and it's just pinch everywhere.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
the other people in my network have, you know, just aren't even aware of who that is.
Yeah.
And maybe
So,
that's
so I saw your poll,
uh-huh.
and
Did
I
you
was
vote?
tempted to take your poll, but there was no option in there for mensch on a bench because you know who the mensch
Bench
on
on a
it's
bench.
the elf on the shelf's cousin.
Oh, I didn't
Yes,
know.
yes, it's the
Uh,
elf's Jewish cousin, the mensch on the bench.
I did not know that. Wow, yeah, I really
Yes,
missed an opportunity there.
yes,
Next time. I do think that this will inspire me to like do some different polling also on LinkedIn or continue to have some
yeah,
polling on LinkedIn because
as you
I
should.
think maybe I will start to poll around. Do you know what BOI is? Like maybe those kinds of things, and see what the people of my network like really care about or have thoughts about. Anyway,
Ah,
uh,
so my daughter, you know, I'm cringe to her some of this stuff.
that,
So I go back to Flavor Flav and his boy day, and he goes, "Yo,
boing.
boy," and my daughter's like, that's not how it works these days, and so I refer to the BOI report as the Flavor Flav report.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
It's not the Avril Lavigne report or whatever. Skater
No,
boy.
Skater Boy. Yeah,
That
no.
was that's more of the that when I see BOI and think about it, that's what I think of first
Right.
actually.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was in my more formative
Yeah.
times.
See.
Um,
Yeah.
too funny, too funny. And when you mentioned it, when you said it before, when we were talking about it before the show, like that's what came to my mind, not Flavor
Yeah.
Flav, but that's pretty funny. Um, any other news, Jay, that you saw? I know it's been 2 weeks since we talked, and we've obviously talked. There were some
News.
really big ones this time, so
Yeah.
um, those kind of overshadow
Honestly,
a
I've
lot
been
of
a
the
little
little stuff.
preoccupied.
You know what? I wonder why. I wonder
Yeah.
what could have preoccupied you on the last week of the year. Could
Yeah.
it have been holidays and things?
Well, it was part holiday and part, trying to get my wheels fixed.
Oh yeah,
I think I
right.
told you the story
You
earlier,
did.
but
Uh-huh.
I've been doing some research of my own there, and so for those of you that don't know, I had a Jeep Wrangler 4xe, and it was a plug-in hybrid. And last year, I launched an effort with Jeep to get them to replace it because basically I bought a hybrid Jeep, so I wouldn't have to put gasoline in it. And number two, I bought a Jeep Wrangler so I could take my top off. Well, here in Florida, this time of year, it's not humid moist, it's damp moist. We get dew every day, so you can't leave a Jeep just sitting out. So, yeah, okay, we got it all taken care of. We're done with that. It happened again this year. So, started reading stories about these recall fixes, and about 10% of them are successful.
Wow.
About 10% of them, the vehicle's brick. And it's kind of like your iPhone. It just turns to big paperweight. And then that other 80% is somewhere in between there. So, got mine done, driving home, maybe gone 5 miles. Check engine light comes on, air conditioner dies, battery's dead. So, ended up having to bring it back. And my high voltage battery died. So I've been ready to get rid of this Jeep for a while now for various reasons, and ended up selling it back to the dealer. So so I was pretty preoccupied with that, and now we're working on getting a new car with the wife, and we'll see where we go with that. So
that should be fun. I look forward to hearing about that in the new year.
But honestly, reading stories this week after this has happened, it's like every other story is like either it went well or I drove home and got the check engine light.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and the process, it was a 12-hour process. They completed in 3 hours.
Amazing. Impressive.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Whatever it is, I'm happy to be, for the first time in 15 years, I'm Jeepless.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah.
Well, wild. And so I guess again we'll see where 2025 takes you, Jay, as far as vehicles go. And then of course we talked last week about trends we're expecting in 2025. Jay, are you New Year's resolutions guy?
I was a New Year's resolution guy that didn't keep my resolutions, so now no, I don't make resolutions.
I mean, I feel like is that not like everybody though?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
General. Let's set some goals and let's achieve them. That's
right. Yeah, that's what I like to do, as well as to build, to not necessarily set goals, but to or not necessarily set resolutions, but to I don't even know what the right way to say it is, but like to change the stuff that I'm doing all of the time, so that the routine incorporates these things that are helping me to improve, like that kind of thing. That's what I like to do now.
Build new habits.
Build new habits. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I started off the year pretty good with that in 2024, but that went sideways about mid-year probably, and so I think in 2025 a lot of the same targets that I had there, right? A lot of the same type of thing. I'm going to try to incorporate again. I think I tried to do too much was the biggest issue, and so if you start slower and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it this way. I think that can end up being more powerful, I think. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what those will be, but I guess I got to choose that.
Many wide sweeping changes at once, you're doomed at that point. Yeah. So start out, like you said, start out small, no different personal life and running your firm, make the changes in incremental steps.
Right. Because you're not going to like completely overhaul the way you're doing business overnight, right? That just isn't, it doesn't make sense. You'll end up like Bench. If you try to do too much at once. But I think if you focus on small, incremental, but useful change, like intentional change, that's the way you're going to win, both in your firm and in your personal life.
Exactly.
And so that's exactly what I'm going to go into 2025 shooting to do. At least we'll see how effective it is. That is each year around the same time, right? Is the Convergence says that for Convergent coaching, their holiday streakers exercise challenge is always around this time of year. It runs from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day. And this is the third or fourth or fifth year, I don't even know now. It feels like a lot of years in a row that I have participated in that, and I love doing that heading into the end of the year because it does do that same thing, right? It is a small change, but an active change that helps you to like set yourself up for the new year. So once you've spent whatever 30-35 days, being consistent in doing something, it makes it that much easier to be like, okay, I know that I have time to do this,
There you go.
and I can find a spot to squeeze this in and make sure that I'm getting out and getting some walking in or some running or whatever it might be. Being active. That's one of my bigger goals going into 2025 as well. So we'll see how effective that can be come June or whenever it was that got
You
got
and me
got
both.
got sick, and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
So, any I didn't put it on the agenda, Jay, but did you do any holiday automations?
I
You have
did not.
Okay, no, I good, glad I left it off then, so we won't even
Yeah.
worry about
No,
that.
I
We'll
have
come.
not. I had some plans, but
Yeah.
those plans were interrupted. So
Yes, I mean, it
uh,
sounds like you were busy. I know you had a
yeah,
lot of people over,
yeah,
and between that and 12 hours of car managing or whatever it was, like at least probably just as well to have that behind you.
yep, for sure.
Um, yeah,
But
all
this time
right,
next
well,
week, most definitely.
all right, fun. I
Yeah.
look forward to the first automation of 2025. All right, wonderful. Jay, any parting thoughts for 2024 or for us broadly?
Sayonara 24.
That's right.
I'm
See
ready to
ya.
move on. Yeah.
Right. Well, I really enjoyed 2024, partially because we got to start doing this.
Yeah, this has
Um,
been the best part of the year for me as well. So,
well, I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that everyone that's out there listening today has enjoyed 2024 or 2024. Good heavens, learn how to talk here right at the end of the show. That you've enjoyed the practice playbook up to date, and I hope that you join us in 2025 as we talk about cybersecurity mistakes, the PCAOB, FinCEN reporting, and whatever tax law changes happen in like 20 days or so. Because I'm sure there's going to be something, and it's going to be exciting, and we'll be right here with you along the way to make sure that you have all the information that you need to make good strategic decisions for you and your firm. So thank you for joining us today. We look forward to continuing this relationship with you in 2025. So thanks, everybody. Have a
Happy
great
New Year,
new
everybody.
year.
See you next year.
Bye.